They protect us. They defend us. They help us in times of need. But they're being destroyed from within.
Last year saw more Army suicides than any year on record.
Day
Our son was just one of thousands of veterans that this country has lost to suicide.
after day
only to die here at home in their sleep.
after day.
He then used a pistol to take his own life.
There is a hidden enemy at work,
It's got to stop.
and it's hiding in plain sight. The most dangerous enemy is the one you never suspect. June 18th, 1940. Psychiatrist and Brigadier General J.R. Reese addressed the annual meeting of the National Council for Mental Hygiene with a strategic plan for psychiatry.
We must aim to make it permeate every educational activity in our national life. Public life, politics, and industry should all of them be within our sphere of influence.
But to reach their objectives, psychiatrists needed the perfect proving ground. One with an unlimited budget that could keep on growing.
It's all about money.
Billions of dollars.
It's our tax money.
A proving ground with an endless supply of human resources.
More people than any other organization in America.
These troops are the guinea pigs.
They're being experimented on.
A proving ground where every order is obeyed, no questions asked.
You have to obey those orders.
You don't have an option.
I'm legally obligated.
And a proving ground where any collateral damage would be labeled classified.
This story has been censored every step of the way.
Brigadier General Reese knew where to look.
The Army and the other fighting services form rather unique experimental groups, since they are complete communities. And it is possible to arrange experiments in a way that would be very difficult in civilian life.
It was a shrewd tactic, especially when sold under the guise of help.
And now the soldier was sick, and unless we do something for him, he may remain sick for an indefinite period of time. Gentlemen, you are not requested to treat these patients. You are directed to do so.
Psychiatrists had come a long way. Only 20 years earlier, they were almost unheard of in military life.
It wasn't until World War I that they came out of the asylums and sort of worked their way into the military. It was a very slow, very gradual insertion.
Slow and gradual, because psychiatrists were simply not trusted, and for good reason. Their treatments were never known to be scientific. In fact, many of their experimental procedures would later be labeled torture.
One of the first uses of psychiatric treatment actually goes back to World War I, when it was used on German soldiers who were deserting and trying to leave the front because of the horrors of the trench warfare on the Western Front.
This treatment was dubbed Kaufman cure after its inventor, but few would have called it therapeutic. The traumatized soldier was hooked up to an electric current, which was ratcheted up until he couldn't take it any longer. During this, the practitioner laid in hypnotic suggestions.
Diese Kaufmann-Therapie wurde von den Psychiatern als Heiltherapie angewandt und eingeführt. Für die Soldaten war das alles andere als Heilung, weil es ja ein Schmerz war, der ihnen zugefügt wurde an den Gliedmaßen. Und so war wohl der wahre Grund, warum die Soldaten dann wieder an die Front gingen, nämlich, dass sie diese Schmerzen nicht mehr aushalten konnten und lieber sich in Kampfeinsatz wagten, als in der Klinik dauernd Schmerzen zu ertragen.
But the pain these soldiers suffered didn't prevent psychiatrists from continuing their experimentation into World War II. And just as before, it was not designed to help their patients overcome the trauma of war.
Zum einen war man von Seiten der Wehrmedizin im Zweiten Weltkrieg bestrebt, den Patienten noch schneller, als dies im Ersten Weltkrieg gelungen war, wieder an die Front zurückzuschicken. Das war der erste und sozusagen das entscheidende Ziel, das die Kriegspsychiatrie im Zweiten Weltkrieg hatte.
All around the world, psychiatrists used the war as an opportunity to try some very risky treatments on soldiers who had very little to say in the matter. They were electroshocking some, putting others into a deep coma, and filling yet more with powerful, mind-altering drugs. As they infiltrated further and further, they became involved in military recruitment, training, discipline, morale. They were even making opinions about the selection of officers.
Then Poole. Poole is an odd sort of man. In civilian life, he was very badly adjusted. In the personal sense, that is, he just couldn't mix, couldn't make friends.
By 1943, psychiatry had penetrated so deeply into the American military, the Navy's top psychiatrist bragged,
"Psychiatry now has a place in every step of the Navy man's career, from his induction to his eventual separation from the service."
It is because of the military that psychiatrists, they became important. You know, they're wearing a uniform now, and they've got the epaulets, and, you know, they've got some power because of the military. The military gave them that.
The United States Chief Military Psychiatrist, Brigadier General William Menninger, even wrote a manual listing all the mental problems he thought soldiers could have. But there were no blood tests, no x-rays, nothing observed under a microscope, just opinions. Scientific evidence? No, sir. But this only helped psychiatry. After all, Menninger's Army Manual provided a veneer of legitimacy, something they could use to diagnose and treat even more service members. The Army Manual was so widely used, it became the foundation for psychiatry's Bible, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM. Because of the influence of people like Menninger, by the middle of World War II, militaries around the world were buying into psychiatrists' claims that they were the mental health experts. And because of that, psychiatrists were free to try out drugs on a lot more soldiers.
The drugs of choice are the barbiturates. You will note that in combat exhaustion, massive doses of these drugs are needed in therapy.
During the Second World War, both Americans and Germans experimented with stimulants because everybody thought, well, this is great, you know, it helps you focus, it keeps you awake.
One such drug was Pervitin, which was given to German soldiers to lower inhibitions and increase aggressiveness.
Man kann sagen, dass dieser Feldzug durchaus Pervitin getränkt war, was die Wehrmachtssoldaten betrifft. Die Wehrmachtssoldaten waren für ihre Gegner unfassbar fit, sie waren unfassbar wach, sie hielten sehr, sehr lange durch, sie waren furchtlos, sie waren aggressiv und wirkten vor allem auf die Gegner wie aufgezogen.
Et il a fallu à peu près 18 mois pour que les accidents apparaissent en nombre considérable, c'est-à-dire des jeunes soldats qui brutalement se conduisaient comme des bêtes féroces, tiraient sur tout ce qui bougeait, sur les civils et sur leurs propres compatriotes. Et les accidents, les imprudences au pilotage d'avions, au pilotage de chars ont été tels que l'armée allemande a interdit l'utilisation de ces drogues à partir du milieu de l'année 42 ou 43. Et l'armée anglaise a vécu la même expérience.
Stimulants were also used by the Japanese. They gave its fighters instant courage, but at a price. The soldier pictured here was a World War II torpedo pilot.
海軍の中の特攻隊員ということで、人間魚雷で有名な回転というものの搭乗員として訓練を受け、
The mission, to be placed inside a manned torpedo that would be manually detonated when close to an enemy ship.
海軍の中ではね、とにかく先行艇部隊、先行艇による特攻を、とにかく成功させるためにということで、海軍ぐるみでっていうかね、でもってとにかく搭乗員たちにアンフェタミンを投与させて作戦行動を成功させるということがもう行われてたということですね。
Although he survived the war, the man's life was ruined.
で実際に私の叔父も、帰ってきて、復員してきてからそういった形で今度メタンフェタミンヒロポン中毒になって、で今度ヒロポンが禁止されたわけですよね。今度は何になってか、もうアルコール、もう本当にアルコールはひどかったです。私も叔父がおばにね本当に暴力を振るうシーンっていうのは何度も見てますし、だから彼自身も実際に、自殺を3度図って。
From the 50s through the 70s, psychiatrists in countries like Britain, the United States, and the USSR continued to use their militaries as proving grounds for an arsenal of new experimental treatments. American military psychiatrists used soldiers to experiment with LSD.
The squad, composed of volunteers for the test, responded like well-trained soldiers, immediately and without question. The squad, all except the drill sergeant, now drugged with LSD. After a few minutes, the men found it difficult to obey orders.
Even though they knew the dangers of this drug, British psychiatrists continued the LSD testing, this time on Marine commandos.
Unknown to the troops, the drug was added to the water on the second day. At 11:40, the first effects of the drug make their appearance. The men no longer take cover, they relax and begin to giggle. 70 minutes after the administration of the drug, with one man climbing a tree, the troop commander gives up, saying, "I cannot do anything about this. I cannot control the men and I can take no action myself. I am wiped out as an attacking force."
Soviet psychiatrists gave their soldiers God knows what.
В советской армии я служил поваром, и обычно перед обедом приходил доктор, врач, и давал нам пакетик, чтобы мы сыпанули в борщ или там в кашу и размешали. Но мы обычно говорили, что это такое. Это нормально, это витамины. Но что это такое, я не знаю. Тем более, что мы, повара, обычно свою долю вынимали из котла до того, как приходил доктор.
Up through time, soldiers continue to be given psychiatric drugs for uses never studied or approved. It's been one huge experiment.
In the Falklands campaign, air crew were given uppers and downers so that their flight duty rotas could be maximized.
We've gotten reports that the Gulf War II pilots do take amphetamines, they do take dexedrine, and that at the nighttime they're given Ambien to bring them down so they can sleep. So they're continuously on this up and down kind of scenario.
Certainly in the Iraq, Afghanistan wars, psychiatry has played a huge role, huge.
Psychiatry is now an accepted part of militaries around the world. We're told we should trust psychiatrists, that they're the authorities. Only one problem, though. Things haven't gotten better. They've only gotten worse.
Anti-anxiety drugs. Important information. This report is an overview of the side effects of common anti-anxiety drugs. It contains information that is important for you to know. Courts have determined that informed consent for people who receive prescriptions for psychotropic, mood-altering drugs must include the doctor providing information about possible side effects and benefits, ways to treat side effects, and risks of other conditions, as well as information about alternative treatments. Yet very often, psychiatrists ignore these requirements. If you are taking these drugs, do not stop taking them based on what you listen to now. You could suffer serious withdrawal symptoms. You should seek the advice and help of a competent medical doctor or practitioner before trying to come off any psychiatric drug. This is very important. Citizens Council on Human Rights, CCHR, does not offer medical advice or referrals but provides the information in this publication as a public service in the interest of informed consent. About anti-anxiety drugs, I want to say this. Mother needs something today to calm her down, and though she's not really ill, there's a little yellow pill. She goes running for the shelter of a mother's little helper. The Rolling Stones wrote these lyrics about prescription drug abuse in 1966. The same words apply today. In 2008, 85 million prescriptions were filled for the top 20 anti-anxiety drugs, also called sedative hypnotics, despite being some of the most addictive mind-altering drugs in the world. Many people rely on these medications to get through the day. If you are one of these people, or have a friend or loved one who is, you need the information in this little lecture. I lost a year of my life. The medications made me feel more depressed, explosive and suicidal, said one former Xanax user. Right in front of my son, I went to take the whole bottle of Xanax so my family would not have to deal with my crying anymore. And this account from a teenager gives some idea of the horrors involved in withdrawing from Valium and Serepax. I was prescribed a tranquilizer for anxiety, to which I became quickly addicted. When I complained about the side effects, the psychiatrist simply increased the dosage, or added another tranquilizer to the point where I was taking 30 pills a day. When I tried withdrawing from them cold turkey, I felt near homicidal. I'd grab knives from the kitchen wanting to harm others or myself. I couldn't sleep. I thought I was dying. When my general practitioner found out, he informed me that getting off these was more dangerous than withdrawing from street drugs. He slowly weaned me off the drugs. It was 6 months of hell. Psychiatrists rarely tell you that you can become addicted to anti-anxiety drugs in as few as 14 days of regular use. They also don't tell you that withdrawal from these drugs is more prolonged and often more difficult than withdrawal from heroin. Typical withdrawal symptoms from anti-anxiety drugs include depression, sweating, cramps, nausea, psychotic reactions and seizures. There is also a significant danger of overdose. From 2004 to 2005, overdoses in the US involving a type of anti-anxiety drug called benzodiazepines rose 19%. British coroners' reports showed each year these drugs contribute to unnatural death more frequently than cocaine, heroin, ecstasy and all other illegal drugs. Unlike medical drugs, which commonly may prevent or cure disease or improve health, psychiatric drugs are only designed to suppress symptoms that return once the drug wears off. Like illicit drugs, psychiatric drugs provide no more than a temporary escape from problems, unwanted behavior or unpleasant emotions. If you are taking these drugs, you may experience a rebound effect where your original mental symptoms come back even worse once you begin withdrawing. Medical experts point out that this is the drug effect, not your mental illness. What I tell you now is intended as an advice to give you the facts about the risks of anti-anxiety drugs and a sample of alternatives available. Brand names for anti-anxiety drugs, called minor tranquilizers, benzodiazepines or sedative hypnotics. Ambien, Zolpidem, Ativan, Lorazepam, Buspar, Buspirone, Centrax, Prazepam, Dalmane, Flurazepam, Doral, Quazepam, Equinil, Brabamate, Halcion, Triazolam, Klonopin, Clonazepam, Lexotan, Bromazepam, Librium, Chlordispoxide, Clocidil, Ethchlorvinol, Prosm, Estazolam, Ristoral, Temazepam, Rosarime, Ramelchion, Serepax, Oxazepam, Sonata, Zalaplan, Tranken, Chlorazepate, Valium, Diazepam, Visterol, Hydroxyzine, Xanax, Alprazolam. What are anti-anxiety drugs or benzodiazepines? Anti-anxiety drugs or benzodiazepines, anxiolytics and minor tranquilizers were initially hailed as a medical breakthrough. The first of this class of drugs was Miltown, which was eventually discovered to be highly addictive. Then came Valium, praised by psychiatrists as a safe alternative, but soon revealed as having strong addictive qualities of its own. Nevertheless, psychiatrists kept on prescribing these drugs in volume. In 2005, another benzodiazepine, Xanax, was the fourth most prescribed drug in America. Benzodiazepines commonly do one or more of the following things to a person: induce a hypnotic state, relax muscles, stop convulsions or cause mild memory loss. They also act as sedatives on the nervous system, so they usually make people sleepy. That is why doctors warn you not drive while taking them. Today, at least 20 million people worldwide are prescribed these minor tranquilizers. Meanwhile, Western European and North American countries are facing epidemic levels of citizens hooked on these drugs. And while benzodiazepines are a disaster in terms of the public health, pharmaceutical companies rake in a whopping $21, 14 billion euros, billion a year selling them. Of course, the users are left with terrible side effects. In fact, an estimated 60% of people taking anti-anxiety drugs become addicted and suffer adverse reactions to the drugs, such as extreme anger and hostile behavior. The elderly face even greater risks, with increased risk of falls and motor vehicle crashes. A British website on benzodiazepines reports that 40% of drivers of motor vehicles found to be impaired or killed in accidents had prescription drugs in their systems, predominantly tranquilizers and sleeping pills. How do psychotropic drugs affect the body? Your body consists of chemical compounds obtained from food, sunlight, the air you breathe and the water you drink. There are millions of chemical reactions that are constantly occurring. Putting a foreign substance such as a psychotropic drug into your body disrupts the body's normal biochemistry. Sometimes this disruption creates a false and temporary feeling of euphoria, being high, short-lived bursts of increased energy or an abnormal sense of heightened alertness. However, it is not natural to feel like this. The feeling does not last and addiction can result. These drugs work by influencing the normal functions of the body. They speed them up, slow them down, dam them up or overwhelm them. This is why you get side effects with psychiatric drugs. But do not think that these drugs heal anything. They are intended to cover up or mask your problems. Meanwhile, they tend to wear out your body. Like a car run on rocket fuel, you may be able to get it to run 1,000 miles an hour to the end of the block, but the tires, the engine and the internal parts fly apart in doing so. Side effects can sometimes be more pronounced than a drug's intended effects. They are, in fact, the body's natural response to the invasion of a chemical that is confusing its normal functions. Drugs mask the problem, they don't solve the cause. What about those who say psychotropic drugs really do make them feel better? That for them, these are life-saving medications whose benefits exceed their risks. Are psychotropics actually safe and effective for them? What ends up happening, says Dr. Beth McDougall, a health center medical director, is that someone feels good for a while and then very often they have to have their dose increased. And then they feel good for a while and then they might have to have it increased again, or maybe they'll switch agents. So it's that kind of a story, if you're not actually getting to the root of what's going on. The side effects of benzodiazepines: insomnia, lightheadedness, involuntary movement, anxiety, fatigue and tiredness, nausea / vomiting, diarrhea, irritability, dizziness, weakness, unsteadiness, drowsiness, loss of muscular coordination, headache, muscular pain, slurred speech, confusion and disorientation, depression, impaired thinking and judgment, memory loss, forgetfulness, stomach upset, blurred or double vision. Long-term side effects: long-term benzodiazepine users are often depressed. Higher doses increase the risk of both depressive symptoms and suicidal thoughts and feelings. Benzodiazepines can also cause emotional blunting or numbness. The medication relieves the anxiety, but it also blocks feelings of pleasure or pain. More rare side effects include mania, hostility and rage, aggressive or impulsive behavior and hallucinations. Withdrawal warning: if you abruptly stop taking benzodiazepines, you may experience severe withdrawal symptoms. These include increased anxiety, insomnia, confusion, pounding heart, sweating and shaking. Pregnancy warning: health authorities warn they may not be safe for pregnancy during the first 3 months, since some studies have suggested an increased risk of birth defects. Crime drug: another benzodiazepine that has been the focus of a great deal of media attention is rohypnol, flunitrazepam, which is known widely as the date-rape drug due to its involvement in many sexual assault cases in recent years. The medication blocks feelings of pleasure or pain. Side effects include mania, hostility and rage. Drug Regulatory Agency warnings: October 1991, the British government banned the benzodiazepine Halcion because of its potentially dangerous side effects, including memory loss and depression. March 2005, the UK Parliament's Health Committee released findings of its inquiry into benzodiazepines, stating that side effects include excessive sedation, decreased attention, amnesia and sometimes intractable dependence. Abrupt cessation can lead to severe withdrawal symptoms, including convulsions in some patients. February 2008, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration added a warning to the Halcyon label that it could cause sleep driving and other complex behavior such as a tolerance/withdrawal phenomena. About anti-anxiety drugs and benzodiazepines. February 2008, the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration imposed a boxed warning in the product information documents for medicines containing zolpidem, a sedative hypnotic, following reports of bizarre and sometimes dangerous sleep-related behaviors such as sleepwalking and sleep driving. May 2008. The FDA added a warning to Ambien that abnormal thinking and behavioral changes such as sleep driving can occur, as well as other adverse reactions, including fatigue, nausea, vomiting, upper respiratory infections, and more. Psychiatric disorders versus medical diseases. There is no question that people do experience problems and upsets in life that may result in mental troubles, sometimes very serious. But to say that these are medical diseases or caused by a chemical imbalance that can only be treated with dangerous drugs is dishonest, harmful, and often deadly. What psychiatric drugs do instead is mask the real cause of problems, often denying you the opportunity to search for workable, effective solutions. It is important to understand that there is a big difference between medical disease and psychiatric disorders. In medicine, a condition is only labeled a disease after it has met strict standards. You have to isolate a predictable group of symptoms, be able to locate the cause of the symptoms or see how they function. This must all be proven and established by a physical test such as a blood test or X-ray. In psychiatry, there are no lab tests to identify their disorders. Their drugs treat symptoms. For example, a patient might have symptoms such as chills or a fever. In medicine, tests would be done to find out what physically observable disease is causing them, such as malaria or typhoid. Psychiatrists, on the other hand, do not look for the root cause, and instead prescribe a drug that suppresses the symptoms. Meanwhile, the cause of the problem is not being treated and may worsen. To appear more scientific, psychiatrists claim that their disorders come from a chemical imbalance in the brain. This claim has never been proven true, since there are no tests to assess the chemical status of a living person's brain or how to determine what a correct chemical balance looks like. Dr. Darshak Sanghavi, clinical fellow at Harvard Medical School, is among many medical experts publicly debunking the chemical imbalance theory. Despite pseudoscientific terms like chemical imbalance, nobody really knows what causes mental illness. There's no blood test or brain scan for major depression. No geneticist can diagnose schizophrenia, he said. The World Psychiatric Association and the U.S. National Institute of Mental Health even admit that psychiatrists do not know the causes or cures for any mental disorder or what their treatments, usually drugs, specifically do to the patient. Needless to say, allowing yourself to be treated with psychiatric drugs is very risky, since there is very little science to back it up. The solution: you have the right to be informed. Mental problems can be resolved, and thankfully so. Unfortunately, psychiatrists will most often tell you that your emotional problem or mental distress is incurable, and that you must take their drugs to manage it, often for the rest of your life. Psychiatrists routinely do not inform patients of non-drug treatments, nor do they conduct thorough medical examinations to rule out an untreated medical condition that may be causing the mental disturbance. But according to the California Department of Mental Health Medical Evaluation Field Manual, mental health professionals working within a mental health system have a professional and a legal obligation to recognize the presence of physical disease in their patients. Physical diseases may cause a patient's mental disorder, or may worsen a mental disorder. There are far too many workable alternatives to psychiatric drugging to list them all here. Citizens Council on Human Rights. Restoring human rights and dignity to mental health. Citizens Council on Human Rights, CCHR, was established in 2002 because the Citizens Committee on Human Rights is founded by the Church of Scientology. We consider this a dangerous organization and we got political interests, no religious ones. Support of many political leaders all over the world help us to investigate and expose psychiatric violations of human rights, and to clean up the field of mental healing. Its founder is Professor Dr. Agroen Enwum, Professor of Psychiatry of Erasmus and internationally renowned author. Today, CCHR comprises a network of 250 psychiatric scandals solved in 34 countries. Its board of advisors, called council members and council informers, includes doctors, lawyers, educators, artists, businessmen, and civil and human rights representatives and outstanding politicians. CCHR has inspired and caused hundreds of reforms by testifying before legislative bodies and conducting public hearings into psychiatric abuse, as well as working with media, law enforcement and public officials all over the world. Given the nature and potentially devastating impact of psychotropic medications, we now similarly hold that the right to refuse to take psychotropic drugs is fundamental. Alaska Supreme Court, 2006. CCHR. CCHR.home.blog. Server cchr@gmail.com. 0032 907 23000. Phone connection code 7939 0031 906 0585. Phone connection code 7939 0031 906 0901. Phone connection code 7939. Young can also give your direct financial support. Go to https://bunk.me/cchr, that is bunq.me, that is the B of bank, the U of Utah, the N of nation and the Q of Quebec.me, the M of Morse and the E of eternity/CCHR of the Citizens Council on Human Rights. So that is https://bunq.me/CCHR. Thank you so much for your generosity. Financial support for exploitation. A lot of people who therefore have to deal with psychiatry are financially seriously disadvantaged and exploited. On the one hand, they often have to deal with administration, or else they can do voluntary work or slave jobs in something that was previously a well-paid job. They must see whether there cannot be used one or more telephones down there and whether access to the internet can be obtained through a company computer or a personal laptop or tablet. Work during the day at the municipality green or at the garbage service means you can possibly hide yourself at the end of the day with the computer equipment and camping sleep where you can hide in the building if one can call paid phone lines down there, and in 99% of 100 this is indeed the case. While there is no one else, you are going to be using the telephone line, or even as many lines as possible to call the numbers mentioned before and to log in by computer or laptop or mobile. You then call and they pay all the costs. If you are sure that you can call the numbers mentioned above for at least 8 hours a week, you earn 13 cents per minute per line. This also benefits CCHR itself. As soon as you have reported to me and there are agreements about the possible cash payment, sending money in a mailbox will always arrive, especially if sent under assurance. You can simply lie down the connected phone on the table and go to sleep. Sometimes the connection is being broken unintentionally from the calling company itself. Then I must be able to reach you via a cell phone or buzzer. Then you have to call in again. In the morning you hide and your sleeping gear too, and then you are at work early. No wonder you will be paid once for the first time. That costs them a heavy telephone bill. You are entitled to salary, and that modern slavery, a slave is entitled to a sleeping place and food, and if that is not possible, you should call CCHR to arrange shelter. They steal your time and energy and you steal a fair salary for your work. Usually something can be found in one way or another, a method or a trick, so that you can use the telephone, and the computer. Never talk about this. They do not call modern slavery by the name either. This way CCHR is ready for the poorly off and knows money is power. With money you can get out of all problems. You can order prepaid credit cards with which everything can be purchased on the internet. A Skrill card is ordered without a passport and it is possible to deposit unlimited money on this card. If I go to GWK in the central station of Rotterdam here, I can deposit your salary on your Skrill card. A governor does not understand that there are countless loopholes to avoid the law to escape their poverty regime with CCHR.